Minutes to Mr. Westmoreland, gentleman from Georgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Liddy, how many lawsuits are currently pending between AIG and CV Star, Star International, and/or Mr. Hank Greenberg?
I can't give you an exact number, but several, and there are several that are quite large. I try to keep a finger on the pulse of the largest ones, but then I rely upon our general counsel and our legal department to handle those issues.
How much money has AIG spent on these lawsuits and legal fees so far, and how long do you think this could go on, and how much money has AIG set aside or projected for the future cost of these lawsuits?
I don't have the details, sir. We can provide them to you, but I would say one of the largest lawsuits we have involves a lawsuit with SECO, and it has a $4 billion potential recovery attached to it. And so working to get that money so that it can be used for the benefit of the taxpayers, we think makes some sense.
Okay, and so, but you know, from what I've been reading or told is that this could take 3 or 4 years and tens of millions of dollars to get these lawsuits settled that are with CV Star or Mr. Greenberg or Star International.
Well, the first of those lawsuits is scheduled to go to trial on June 15th of this year. Okay. And the start of that lawsuit would go back to 2005, 2006. So an awful lot of work has already been done with respect to it. So the issue becomes, do you continue to pursue it because you're now very close to what you think will be a legal victory involving a fair amount of money?
But that's one of the lawsuits. You said you didn't know exactly how many are pending? No,
that's one. I know that one because it's one of the larger. Then there's a suit against Mr. Greenberg to the tune of about $1.6 billion to recover the fines and penalties that the company paid as a result of his behavior that was determined. That's what we had to do in order to pay the Attorney General of the state of New York.
Okay. But you will get us the information about how many lawsuits are pending?
Yes.
And where they're at in the legal process, if you
with respect
if you
to
don't
Mr.
mind.
Greenberg.
Yes, that would be fine. According to the news reports, and I want to ask you if this is true, that Mr. Greenberg has offered to submit all these matters to a mandatory arbitration. Are those news accounts true?
We've gone through various forms of either mediation or arbitration in the past, generally without any successful conclusion. And now that all the work has been done and this trial is ready to start and the judge who's going to hear it has been briefed and is knowledgeable on it, most of those activities are no longer ongoing. But we certainly have engaged in those discussions before.
But, well, I think my question is, are the news reports true that it would be mandatory arbitration? Binding arbitration.
Yeah,
binding arbitration.
I don't think so, no. Again, we're going to quickly exhaust my level of expertise in terms of exactly what that would be, and that's why.
Well, could you get that information too to find out if these news reports are true? Yes. That it would be a binding arbitration that that he has suggested that he and AIG go through, because you know, to be honest with you, Mr. Liddy, now that AIG is about 80% taxpayer owned, I would think that if this binding arbitration was an offer that was out there for both sides to do, that it might be in the best interest of the American taxpayer to get these things settled rather than going on for years and years and years paying these legal fees. And I'm sure that binding arbitration with whoever the arbiter would be could, in fact, in the end result, bring this to a close and save the taxpayers, myself, and my kids and grandkids millions of dollars over this period of time. You mentioned yourself that this has been going on since 2005 in this one case. And so if there's more than one case, how much longer could it go on? How much more money are we going to spend on lawyers? And what would be the harm in going to a binding arbitration? Well,
as I said, we have attempted to do that on numerous occasions with Mr. Greenberg on at least one suit and probably others. And now all of the work and effort has been teed up to actually take this to trial. So we think we have an excellent chance to win.
So you've never been to binding arbitration is what you're saying?
I'll provide you the detail. I just don't know.
Okay, because, I mean, if you've been to binding arbitration, then it looks like it would be binding, and I don't want to badger you, and I'm
Yeah,
not
no,
trying to, but...
I know we've been through several rounds of mediation.
I would like to know the details on that, because I feel like since we now own 80% of the company, that we do have an interest in that in an ongoing litigation that could cost millions of dollars. And
would the gentleman yield?
I will.
Thank you. Mr. Liddy, earlier I asked you about the current stock value of the of your stock, but I didn't ask you about your portfolio in its entirety. As an enterprise value, what would you say the fairly stated enterprise value of the going concern you run today is? Not what you could liquidate it for, but what the enterprise value is, so that we could decide what you believe it is worth in a fair market, not what it's going to earn over years in which you get artificially low loans and stock which is paying no dividend, but what do you believe the enterprise is worth today?
I would go back to the discussion we had earlier. I think it's the equity value. It's about 2.7 billion shares, I think, at approximately $2 a share, because it's not just the assets that you have to value, it's all the liabilities. It's the $40 billion that we want to pay back.
That's why I asked for the enterprise value.
There's $250 billion of other debt that we owe. So I think the enterprise value is at most what the equity value is worth today.
So you're saying you're worth $5 billion and you've got $190 billion of the stockholders' investment?
Well, again, the key is to be able to manage this situation over time so that we can liquidate the liabilities, pay back everything, and then have a value retained, which the trustees are the guardians of.
Thank you, Mr.
Gentleman's time has expired.
Mr. Chairman, and I'll yield back my time, but I would like to make a request that we do get this information from Mr. Liddy and AIG as far as the future liability that could be imposed upon the taxpayers.
Without objection, we hold the record open for the information. The gentlewoman from Ohio.